Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about today, but there's no question about it. One of the biggest stories right now that's taking place, and this is not just isolated in Washington, D.C. We are seeing this phenomenon in almost every major city in the United States, whether it's New York, whether it's Chicago, whether it's L.A., Portland, Seattle. So far, I have not heard anything in Boston. I'm not saying it's not happening. I haven't seen a story yet, but I'm sure it's going to be coming to a neighborhood near you. So, and it's a phenomenon called teen takeovers. And what is a teen takeover, you may ask? Well, a teen takeover is when a group of young, mostly male teenagers, 15, 16, 17 years old. So they're underage. But like a pack of jackals, and there's no other way to describe this, they will descend on a business, on a restaurant, on a place where an ice cream shop, and they just start fighting. I mean, I'm not kidding. And I don't just mean a shot here or a shot there. They go absolutely, it's bedlam. They go wild. Fists are flying. People are kicking. Furniture is being thrown. The patrons are being absolutely terrorized. And then when they hear the sirens or they see the police flashlights, the flashing lights of the police, they all run off. And then rinse, wash, repeat, they do it again, usually at a different location. And this time, people have had enough. In Washington, D.C. in particular, which seems to be the epicenter, video now has come out. I'm sure many of you have seen it. It's a massive story all over the country. It's gone viral, of a Chipotle, or as Sandy would like to call it, Chipotle. Seriously, she calls it Chipotle. And I'm like, and you make fun of the way I talk and the way I pronounce things? But anyway, let that go. At a Chipotle restaurant, and by the way, people ask me, Jeff, do you like Chipotle? I love Chipotle. I do, honestly. I love Chipotle. Grace loves Chipotle. Ashton, Ava, and the chicken. I love that nice chicken bowl, brown rice, black beans, mild salsa, corn, a little bit of cheese and lettuce, and nice, just a little bit of sour cream. Mwah! Mwah! With a Diet Coke, I'm a happy man. But anyway, let that go. At a Chipotle restaurant in the Navy Yard in Washington, D.C. This happened sometime over the weekend. Video has now come out. It is absolutely shocking. There's just no other way to put it. If you haven't seen it, let me describe it for you. It is a group of young African-American men. I would say there's at least 10 or 15. They're all wearing masks, these sort of medical masks that were popularized by Fauci and Biden under COVID. And they're all dressed in black. I don't know why, but their pants are black. They're wearing hoodies to conceal their face, all in black. And they have these masks to cover their face, all done on purpose. They apparently met up at this Chipotle, and it's like two warring sides. I don't know how else to describe this. It's the weirdest thing. They enter the Chipotle, and by the way, it's packed. It's full of customers. These are families that are eating out. There was a baby. There was a small girl on a high chair. There were elderly people there. There were some other teenagers there who weren't causing trouble. They were just there to grab a bite to eat. So you have families there, patrons, customers there, and they are absolutely terrorized as these two warring sides, they all sort of pour into the Chipotle, and then inside the Chipotle, they start wailing at one another. I mean, they're really going at it. They're punching, kicking. They start grabbing the furniture. They're hitting each other with chairs, tables. They're throwing chairs across the entire room. One guy grabbed a high chair. One father grabbed his young daughter. She may have been 2 years old from the high chair, and they're cowering in the corner in front of these. I'm sorry, these are animals, the way they're behaving. And one of them grabs the high chair and uses it like a makeshift sledgehammer and starts just pounding someone else, one of the other youths with one of these other thugs with the, dressed in black. And they're just pounding that person over the head using the high chair like a sledgehammer. So the restaurant within 3 minutes is absolutely trashed. It is destroyed. Food everywhere. Chairs flying. Punches flying. People kicking. 2, 3 beating up one guy. Then they come and then a couple of his friends help him out and they start hitting a couple of those people with a chair over the head. I thought they were going to kill each other. The workers are yelling, shouting, screaming. They're calling 911. You hear the parents. You hear these patrons. They're there frightened out of their minds. I don't blame them. Parents are concerned their babies and their young children could be seriously injured, if not killed. Let me just give you a taste of this atmosphere of violence and terror that took place at this Chipotle, as Sandy would put it. At Chipotle, roll cut 11, Mike. I mean, they're lucky nobody was killed. I'm serious. They're lucky nobody was killed. Now, this is not a one-off. This is what I'm trying to say. This is not, teens will be teens or whatever. This is happening over and over and over again, these sort of teen takeovers in city after city, Washington in particular, but in other cities. It has gotten so bad that now the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, whom I love, by the way, in a non-sexual way, obviously, but whom I love, Jeanine Pirro now has come out and said it's becoming an epidemic. And now she's doing something very controversial. She says not only are we going to go after and punish these teenagers for assault, for vandalism, for delinquency, in other words, throw the book at them, but she said, I'm also getting sick and tired of the parents. These are 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, and the parents are letting them out. They're letting them roam the streets on their own. They're dropping them off at all these locations where they meet up with their friends, and then they go to wherever the parents go, and then these teens, dressed in black or whatever, wearing their masks, then go and terrorize a place of business or a restaurant or an ice cream shop or a McDonald's or a Wendy's or whatever it may be. And she says that now the parents are going to be held responsible and accountable as well for the action and behavior of their violent, out-of-control teenage kids. And she now says, I've had it. This is going on. This is out of control. This is bad parenting. It's irresponsible parenting. And it's getting people hurt. And it's now terrorizing our city. And we've got to stop this before we become an absolutely third world hellhole. And so she's now saying that if children are caught or teenagers are caught in one of these teen takeovers, like the one at Chipotle that went viral over the weekend, she's also going to charge the parents as well. They're going to have to pay a fine. They're going to have to, if their child is found guilty, and, the video footage shows who participated and who didn't, the parents are going to be forced to take mandatory classes on proper, good, effective parenting, and the parents themselves may face up to 6 months in prison. I'm going to play the cut on the other side because Jeanine Pirro's comments now are causing a lot of controversy. Some people say this is not the way we do things in America. You don't punish the parents for the actions of the children or for the actions of teenagers. This is their own free will. The parents can't be blamed for the actions of someone else. While many others, and I'll be honest, myself included, I think it's time to hold these parents accountable. If you're not disciplining your child, if you're not parenting your child, if you're allowing your child to run wild, all right, hopefully we're going to start loading up the lines, 617-266-6868 if you want to weigh in on this. So what you're having now, again, Washington, D.C. is the epicenter, but this is happening in cities all over the country, And you see these what are called teen takeovers. And just to give you an example, in some places in Washington, you're looking at 20, sometimes 30, 40 teenagers. And they'll go into a grocery store or a pharmacy or, as I said, a restaurant, or what happened over the weekend was at Chipotle. And it's like a prearranged meeting where almost like gangs or whatever, two sides, two packs of teenage thugs will be dressed all in black, and they cover their faces and they wear hoodies so they can't be seen by cameras or their faces can't be detected. And they just start going at each other. And, if they were just beating each other on a street corner or something, well, that's between them. I mean, you shouldn't do it, obviously. But what they're doing is, for example, in the Chipotle, but they do this all the time. It's not just, this is the one that's gotten the most attention. Furniture was flying. High chairs were being used as sledgehammers, makeshift sledgehammers. They were punching, beating each other. It was pandemonium. It was bedlam. It was violent. It was, it was almost a form of terrorism. It was traumatic. You have children crying, parents in an absolute panic, in sheer terror, thinking that they're going to be beaten to death, or their children is going to be killed, or their kids are going to be badly hurt or maimed. And you have a pack of teenage girls, and that's what happens every time. I guess they've been tipped off or told, we're going to hit this place at this time. And many of them are giggling and laughing and cheering on the boys that are fighting. And then the girls are almost as lookouts. They go, oh, cops, cops, cops. And then everybody just runs away. And you see like 20, 30 of them just running down the street trying to evade the police. So it has gotten so bad and it's so rampant that they have now imposed a curfew for people under the age of 18 in Washington, D.C. You are not allowed to be out after a certain time to try to curb and clamp down on these so-called teen takeovers. Now, this was before the big brawl at Chipotle, just maybe a day before. Listen now to Jeanine Pirro saying to parents, you're going to start being held responsible. We have a curfew. If your child is out past that curfew and hasn't been involved in one of these teen takeovers, meaning you're not parenting or supervising your children, we're not just going to arrest your child, okay? We're going to arrest you. We're going to start holding you, the parent or parents, responsible. Roll cut 12A, Mike.
And it sends a clear message to the parents. You must supervise your kids or face criminal consequences. Law-abiding taxpayers should no longer have to pay for parental neglect. And as we take back our streets, as you've heard today, there will be no excuses. Parents, do your jobs, or we will do ours.
I'm with her all the way. I'm with her all the way. Parents, do your jobs. lack of parenting, honestly, lack of respect for the community, respect for yourself, respect for your fellow citizens. Why aren't these teenagers in school? Why aren't they studying? They should be at home. Instead, it's 9, 10, 11 o'clock, whatever it is, and they're running wild on the streets. And by the way, they're not just fighting each other. It's, over and over again, they see an elderly woman or an elderly man, and they'll just walk up and 2, 3, 4 of them and just beat the living daylights out of them. I mean, I'm talking knock them out. Punch them in the face, punch them in the head, kick them, stomp them, assault them, beat them, burglarize them. And then like a pack, they just run off and attack someone else. I'm sorry, this is savagery. And taxpayers, law-abiding citizens, we have a right to safe streets. We do. We have a right to go to a restaurant like Chipotle, or as Sandy calls it, Chipotle. And if I bring my child, or I bring my little girl or my little boy or my wife or whatever, you're with your husband, I'm sorry. I have a right to have a meal in peace. Not to suddenly turn around and see 20, 25 strong 15, 16, 17-year-old, thugs just start beating on each other. And then, furniture is flying. Chairs are flying. High chairs are flying. Tables are flying. And, you're, by the way, they're lucky one of those kids wasn't hit in the head with one of those flying chairs and had their head smashed completely wide open. And you're asking yourself, do they have a gun? Do they have a knife? Are they going to shoot me? Are they going to shoot my wife? Are they going to shoot my children? No, I'm sorry. Where are the parents? Now, after 18, once a certain age, yeah, you're an adult. I don't think you can blame the parents for that. But these are 15, 16-year-old kids. I'm sorry, they're still under the charge and care and authority of the parents. And obviously, the parents are not parenting. I don't know what they're doing, but they're clearly not supervising and parenting and watching over their kids. That's for sure. So, okay, I'm going to play the cut coming back in, then I want to start to take calls. Janine Pirro now says what you saw at that Chipotle restaurant was done because these teenage punks thought they could get away with it, think they can do whatever they want with impunity. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro. She held a major press conference on that violent brawl that erupted in that Chipotle in Washington's Navy Yard. Clearly now it's a turning point. Residents are sick of it. Businesses are sick of it. Many of the law-abiding people who live in that part of D.C. are absolutely sick of it, and you can tell she's sick of it. She's now saying they think they're going to get away with this. They're not getting away with it. Roll cut 12, Mike.
These are not harmless gatherings. They are violent and they are disruptive. And you can see from what happened at Chipotle's this past weekend. It was not just violence occurring between individuals. It was simply destruction of property. It was a takeover of a restaurant by individuals who felt that they could get away with it. Well, they're not going to get away with it. And I'm going to tell you how in a couple of minutes. But this terrorizing is going to end. And the message that lawlessness runs the streets is over. The city belongs to law-abiding residents, not roaming mobs looking to make a name for themselves or to contribute to the chaos or violence and to get social media attention.
Well, and she's right about the social media. I mean, she's right on everything. But she's right about the social media attention because they're filming this. That's the amazing thing about these teen takeovers. They're filming themselves. Now, to be fair to them, I mean, they're not completely stupid. They have hoodies They wear these, as I said, medical masks or emergency use masks. So it's hard to identify their faces. Again, they're all dressed in black, black shoes, black pants, black hoodies. And they just go at it. So, and there's a lot of girls, teenage girls who watch film, record this, and it's a great show, and they love it, and they find it exciting and thrilling. And then it's like a mob, and they're a roaming mob. They just go from one business to another establishment, to a grocery store, to a pharmacy. Ooh, there's an elderly woman. Let's beat the hell out of her. Oh, look at this. There's a couple walking on the streets. Let's go beat the hell out of them. Oh, there's a woman with the baby stroller. Well, let's beat the hell out of the woman, the mother. And this is how they're terrorizing. Again, it's not just D.C., it's other cities as well. So, look, 14, 15, 16 years old, my question is, why aren't you home studying? You don't want to study? Okay. Why aren't you, I don't know, playing basketball? Why aren't you at the gym? Why aren't you watching TV? Not that I'm a big fan of watching TV, but do something. But don't run around on the streets assaulting people and destroying and trashing businesses and terrorizing customers. Now, this is where she drops the hammer. Listen now to Janine Pirro saying, I'm done with parental neglect, and I'm done with the fact that they are not parenting, and there's no supervision, no discipline, no consequences from the parents whatsoever. So now, when we arrest your child, we're going to prosecute your child, then we're coming after you. Roll cut 12B, Mike.
This is a different scenario than any other time in the history of the district, because we are looking beyond those individuals who are committing the crimes, irrespective of how old they are. And we're looking at the parents to make sure that they understand that they are responsible for the upheaval that is going on in this district that is impacting everyone who lives here.
So she now says, and I'll play you some more cuts. I want to get to the phone lines, 617-266-6868. She's going to charge them under a statute contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And she says, we're going to nail you on that statute. And what you're going to do is you're either going to pay a fine, i.e. you're going to have to pay for the damage done to a restaurant or an establishment. So you're going to have to pay for the damage done by your children. So you're going to be fined. You're going to be compelled to take mandatory classes on how to be a proper parent who supervises and disciplines and watches over your child. And maybe not on the first go around, but certainly on the second go around, you're going to be facing up to 6 months in prison. So my question to you, and it's the question before the House, the Kuhner country, should parents be held responsible legally? Should they be held legally accountable for the criminal behavior and criminal actions of their teenage children, especially when they engage in mob behavior, in these sort of teenage takeovers, when they start destroying businesses, assaulting people, terrorizing customers, essentially running wild? Should the parents be blamed? And should the parents get a fine or even go to jail? 617-266-6868. Steve in Seabrook, you're going to kick us off. Steve, thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. So here's the problem. The politicians are too slow to react. They need to pass some laws that says if you participate in one of these violent takeovers, these smash and grabs, you're going to do a mandatory sentence. No slap on the wrist, no probation. You're going to go to jail automatically for 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on what it is. But it's mandatory. There's no, letting them out early. Oh, he's a good guy. I don't care if you're holding the door open. If you participate, you're going to jail. And then what they can do is once they pass that law, they can have the police departments go into the schools, have an assembly and explain to all the kids in the high schools that this is the new rule now, that we're not going to put up with it. So that everybody knows ahead of time that if they participate in this type of stuff, they're going to get in trouble. And then as far as the social media stuff, that's another problem. They need to pass some laws about that. If you're posting these videos, we're going to go after you. I know there might be some First Amendment, issues on that they have to work through. But, you see it all the time. And the parents, you see these parents all the time, they're flipping out at McDonald's because their french fries are cold and they have kids with them and they're smashing everything. It's like, no, like that's not acceptable. You can't do that stuff. It's unbelievable what's going on in this country, but the politicians are too slow to react.
Oh, I agree with you. Look, I think there need to be tougher laws on the books, and we got to go after these thugs. I don't care if they're 15, 16, 17 years old. I agree with you because you look; those were big kids. Let me tell you, I saw the size of those kids. Those are big kids. They can do a lot of damage, and I felt so sorry for the patrons, for the customers. Fathers, mothers, teenagers, children, couples. You could see the terror on their face. They're like, is somebody just going to smash my head open or beat me to death or kill me or whatever? I'm sorry. This is unacceptable. But let me ask you to the heart of the matter. If these children if these teenagers are arrested, should the mother or the father or both, many of them don't have a father, which is a problem right there because there's no strong father figure to really impose discipline and order in the home. So a lot of these are coming from single parent families, usually single moms, who are just struggling to hold the whole thing together. Okay, but let that go. Should the parents go to jail as well as their children? What say you?
It might be a little bit of a problem because if it is a single parent, it's like, now what do you do with the kids? And then, they still got to pay rent. And like, what happens? So it could be a dangerous, slippery slope, but there should definitely be consequences. They, like you said, they do the classes, they do the probation, they do restitution. Maybe they have to do volunteer work to help clean up the restaurant. People forget, the insurance company will pay for the damage. Well, guess what? Now that restaurant just lost business for a day, 2 days, or a week while they're repairing all that stuff. And some businesses can't survive that, especially if it's a little mom and pop, little sub shop or something they just destroyed. They can't afford to be down for a week with no sales. So it's a big problem. So
you're dead on. And the insurance rates go up. You see, and that's impose even a heavier cost on the business owner. So you're right on every count. Okay, Steve says, look, maybe not put him in jail. Maybe just give him a fine or have them pay restitution or have them say, no, you got to come and help clean it up. Your child made the mess. You and the child have to come and clean this up. Okay, just very quickly, because many of you are making this important point on the text line. I'm getting flooded with texts, emails. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man 70470. And as always, you can call in 617-266-6868. Jeff, as many of you are saying, the problem, if you want to put parents behind bars for, in other words, jailing them along with their children for their violent behavior. Okay, they're out of control, violent, destructive behavior. Is then the child's in prison, the parent is in prison, and what if there are other children at home? Who takes care of those children? And usually, in some of these areas, at least this is what many black community leaders are saying, that the problem already is that there's one, if not both parents, in jail. Usually the father's in jail, and the mother may be in jail or not in jail. So they're saying all you're doing by incarcerating is making the problem worse. Because now the children who are much younger, who need their mother, don't have a mother, and what, they're going to go into the foster care system? So the state's going to take them over? Like that's going to work out really good for them? So what they're saying is rather than making it better, all you're going to do is make it worse. So they don't like that this idea of putting parents in jail for up to 6 months, which then begs the question, well, something has to be done to have these parents realize that there's consequences to the actions of their children and, frankly, to their own neglect. If they're not going to parent and if they're not going to supervise, and in many cases they're going to drop the child off, they drive them, they drop them off, whatever, okay, spend a couple hours with your friends, knowing full well that they're involved in this kind of destructive mob activity, then you're aiding and abetting your child. I mean, you call that parenting? Son, hang out with your buddies and go trash at Chipotle? Hey, son, you guys go to a CVS and wreck it and beat each other's brains out while you're at it. Like, that's your idea of being a good mother or a good father or a good parent? So Janine Pirro is at her wit's end. I don't blame her. And she's saying, no, there's going to be consequences. And maybe if there's real consequences, this will compel the parents to finally do their job. Agree, disagree. Dave in Malden. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Hiya.
Dave, how are you, my friend?
Jeff, back in the day, they used to have a 9 o'clock curfew every day of the week. If you weren't in by 9 o'clock, the curfew bell goes off, and you'd be picked up and arrested for just being on the street. Okay? Now, what all these restaurants and Chipotle and all these places like this should do is what Market Basket and others stopping shops are doing. They should have at least 3 or 4 undercover inside the restaurant, especially at nighttime when this is going on. That way, if anything does happen, forget the hoodies, the cops are right there undercover, and they can take them down right there and then. And at the same time, Jeff, this is also due because a lot of the video games that are coming on, and they're on the video games all day long, figuring, oh, yeah, we can do this for real. And so they're doing it. They're copying the video games that they're watching on their phone. Or they're watching the movies that are coming out. And half of the movies that come out today, Jeff, it's not by kicking them in the head and shoot them. I mean, this is what's going on. It's the movies and the video games that are coming out, and all of this is destruction. The parents, on the other hand, yeah, they should be held responsible and pay a hefty fine. Not a small fine, but a hefty fine. Jeff, I had an issue years ago, and I won't say exactly what, but I had an issue with a manager at a restaurant here in Malden many years ago. I didn't hurt the guy, Jeff, but the guy really pushed my buttons at the time. Jeff, I did 6 months because of it. I never did anything wrong, but the guy instigated it, and then I got myself in trouble because of it. It's like, okay, every one of these kids are going into the restaurants, beating up people inside the restaurants. People were sitting there doing just minding their business. Every one of them should be taken down, put 6 months to a year, at least a year, Jeff. They want to act like a tough guy in a restaurant, put them in Walpole for 6 months. Put them in Norfolk for 6 months. Put them down in, put them up in Bill Ricker for 6 months, see how bad they are. This is what they need to do, Jeff. Have undercover cops in each restaurant. This way, as soon as things go down, bang, they got them right there. They yank the damn hoods off of the mask because they all want to play high and ho and hide and go seek. No more games, Jeff. Put them all in jail. Forget the probation. 6 months to a year, at least a mandatory year for each one of them. And yes, the parents should be held responsible.
Dave, you're right. I think you're clicking on all cylinders, Dave. Let me throw this in the mix and tell me what you think. One of the big reasons why they're doing this and why they're pretty much getting away with it is because they go into these establishments, and you saw it at that Chipotle brawl, but it doesn't matter. It's over and over again. They wear these COVID masks or whatever, the masks that they popularized under COVID, these cloth masks that cover almost their entire face. Then they put a hoodie on top of it. So the camera, I mean, if you look at that video, and I urge all of you to look at it if you can, It's going to disgust you, but you'll get a sense of how just savage and brutal it is. You're like, where are we? Like, what is this? The law of the jungle? Like, you just come in and you start, first of all, beating the hell out of each other and just destroying the place for nothing. I mean, literally nothing. Because you think it's fun and cool. But the point is, you can't make out their faces. And because they're all dressed the same, you can't even make out, well, that person, I don't know, had blue jeans and a white shirt, or that one had shorts and a red shirt, or whatever. It's all, they're dressed the same, and then the faces are covered, and they have the hoodies. You can't identify them. You can't make them out. What about we have to start doing this? If I don't see your face, you're not allowed to come in. If you've got a mask, I don't care this COVID nonsense anymore. COVID is 6 years in the rearview mirror. Enough with the panic porn and the hysteria. You come into an establishment, I want to see your face. I want you to pull your hoodie back or take your baseball cap off or whatever, and I want the mask off your face so the camera can spot your face. Do we need to start doing this, Dave, or we don't serve you, period? What say you?
Jeff, I wouldn't serve them. I wouldn't even let them inside. But on the other side of the coin, they're going to force themselves into wherever they want to go. These kids today, they don't care, Jeff. They got this ghetto attitude about themselves, figuring they can do whatever they want, and they don't care who gets hurt because of it all. They don't care, Jeff. There's no parenting. The parents should be liable for what the kids are doing because they're not raising the kids the way they're supposed to be getting raised. And the parents should be held liable, and these kids need to go to jail. That's what it comes down to. They're going to force themselves into any place, whether you say so or not. They're going to cause trouble and cause more damage. Have the cops inside undercover.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it's going to be expensive, but if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do. Dave, always, I love your calls. Dave, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Dave says, no, we got to beef up security and throw the book at these kids, these teenagers. And no, mandatory 6 months, mandatory year, whatever it is, but let them know they're going to be real legal consequences. You come into an establishment, you assault customers or assault each other, I don't care, and you start destroying the place, tossing chairs, tossing tables, grabbing high chairs with children crying in the corner and smashing people over the head with it like a sledgehammer, a makeshift hammer. No, you're going to go to jail. Period. Mandatory. That's it. Agree, disagree, and that the parents should pay a massive fine. Maybe you don't send them to prison as well, but they got to pay and mandatory classes. In other words, start shaming the parents. 617-266-6868. Look, tell me if I'm wrong on this, if your experience was different than mine. God is my witness. As, I was rebellious like every teenager, 15, 16, 17. I did things I'm not proud of. But I never did this. Why? A, I was raised not to do this, clearly. And more importantly, I'll be honest with you, if I was arrested for trashing a restaurant or a pharmacy, or, joining in a fight where like a pack of wolves were beating people up, or I'm throwing chairs and tables and high chairs, my father would have leveled me. Forget the police. My bigger worry would be my old man. I'd be like, he's going to kill me. I mean, I'm being honest with you. And I know that people I grew up with, I'm sure when they're listening to the show, they're like nodding their head up and down like, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, it would have been, forget the belt. Bam, back of the head. Bam, back of the head. Bam, back of the head. I raised you like this. I mean, it would grounded for a year. I mean, it'd be World War III in the house. So you're just thinking as this thing is breaking out, nah. I don't want to know my old man. nah, it's not worth it. And let me just say something else. I remember, now this was early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Here, in our neighborhood, we had police officers that, one cop walked the beat. Literally just walked the beat with a billy club. And he never used it on me or any of my friends. But just the fact that he was walking the streets with a billy club, and sometimes he would say, hey, go home. Like if it's 9:30, 10 o'clock or whatever on a summer night, and we're outside playing basketball or whatever, say, go home. No, it's too late. Go home. Like whatever. I don't care. Go home, watch TV, do whatever, read a comic book. I don't care what you do. No, 9:30, 10 o'clock, there's going to be trouble. He just said, go home. That's it. And the parents were like, yeah, what the hell were you doing out so late anyway? We turn our back and you guys are still playing outside? And if someone did confront a police officer or, assault someone or, a lot of times they weren't charged. Literally the cop with the billy club, bang, one shot to the head. I'm not saying it never happened to me or any of my friends, but you heard stories. And that officer walking around with that club, I'm telling you, put the fear of God into everybody. It worked. You could walk at 2 a.m. A mother by herself, for whatever reason, she can't sleep. She takes her baby in a stroller. She could walk the sidewalk at 2 a.m. And I'm saying 1,000% safe. Now, you can't even go to a freaking Chipotle at 8 o'clock at night. You're lucky you're not shot, mugged, or have a chair smashed over your head. 617-266-6868. Am I wrong? Because I think what I'm describing is similar to what many of you probably grew up with as well. Kelly in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Kelly, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. How are you doing this morning?
Very good. How are you, Kelly?
Oh, doing good. I'm your shrink that used to call there a while back. My house growing up, people would tell you that it was like my brother and I grew up in two different houses because I was the good child. My brother got in trouble with the law constantly. And it wasn't my parents, though. Yes, they should be fine, but go to jail, I can't go with that because my mom and dad tried their best to have my brother follow the law. But my brother was picked up for auto theft. He had this ring going on where they stole bicycles, repainted them, and sold them again. And he was 14 doing this, 14 years old. And my parents had no idea. I can't justify putting the parents in jail, but I can justify fining them. And let the kid pay. Let the kid do something to pay, too.
Kelly, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. When your brother was arrested, say, for auto theft or for running that, painting and then reselling the bicycles, stealing bicycles, repainting, and then selling them, when your father and mother found out, were there consequences?
My mother coddled him. That's the parent who was the coddler. And she was like, oh, my baby, not my baby. Where my dad was like, he's grounded for life, even though he wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no, I hear you. Well, no, my mother was not a coddler either, though. I mean, but you're basically saying there were consequences. You're just saying, look, my brother had this rebellious streak in him. Now, I take it he turned things around later, right, Kelly?
Died of alcoholism at 54.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He would have been 59 yesterday, actually. That's what made me call.
Oh, I am so sorry. So, but now he didn't become but did he become a career criminal?
A career alcoholic more than anything. He didn't want to work for a living. He wanted to live off of us. He voted for John Kerry. What can I say?
Oh, geez. I'm sorry to hear that.
He totally wanted to live off everybody else.
Kelly, and you're saying that didn't come from your parents. Your parents raised him right. Maybe your mother overindulged him, but overall they were supervising him. They loved him. They cared for him. You're saying he was just in some ways, he had issues, and that ultimately you can't blame the parents for that, correct?
I mean, there's a point in our lives where, and I'm saying this probably as a former counselor, we make our own decisions. 14 is old enough to say we know what is right from wrong, whatever your parents tell you. And we know what kind of friends to have at 14 years old that are going to be positive or negative influence. It's up to that 14-year-old to decide. I think it's old enough to decide. 15, 16, of course, yes. But sometimes parents just have no idea. And yes, this is 2026. There are homes where there's no father. And that is a sad thing to see, because if you don't have a father in the home, you also don't have a lot of things going on that could actually help you with the right and wrong and paying the consequences of your actions.
Kelly, thank you very much for that call. So here's an example. Kelly says, look, my parents were good parents, not perfect, obviously. No one is. But they loved her brother, and she was just trouble. It was more the bottle than anything else, but the point is he did commit crimes, and so to put the parents in jail would just be wrong. So Kelly says maybe have the parents fined, maybe help them, clean up if they do damage or pay restitution. Yes, but sending them to prison, that's too far. Agree, disagree. Chris in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome. Because you sound like you're muzzled. I can barely hear you. Like literally, you sound like someone has a hand over your mouth. Like, that's how you sound.
Does that sound better?
Oh, night and day. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I talk sometimes way too loud for the phone.
That's okay.
But, so I don't know what you heard from Kelly, but what I heard was that, her mother coddled the boy, which means when a mother coddles and she's consistently doing it, it means the father's female-dominated and a wimp. Because there's no way in God's green earth. My family had 4 boys, Jeff. There's no way my mother coddled any of us. As a matter of fact, I sent you a text message. I was picked up by the cops for throwing a baseball through a school window purposely. And that's where they brought me. Now, this is when cops traveled in partnerships, unlike they do today. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket in our society. But the bottom line is that when I was being brought home, I wasn't being brought to jail. I was being brought to home. I was screaming for them to bring me to jail because I knew what was going to happen when I got home.
Oh yeah.
Listen, parents.
So I don't mean to laugh. I'm just reminding of my dad. Like I remember, I never got in trouble with the police, but with school, with the principal, and I'm like, please just don't tell my dad. Anything is worse. Anything is better. Please put me in jail. Just don't tell my dad. Anyway, keep going, Chris. You're on a roll.
Down my pants. Got all my brothers together, pulled down my pants, and gave me a spanking on my buttocks. That's what God made buttocks for. Long story short, sitting in spankings. Long story short is that do you think the police ever had a problem with me ever again? No. But I did at 16 start to flex my male muscles because, the hormones were rushing. And one day I called my mom a miserable bitch.
Chris, can you just hang on? I'm up against the break. I don't want you to rush your story. So Chris is basically saying you have to have a strong father in the home, a disciplinarian. 617-266-6868 is the number. Should parents be held legally responsible for the actions of their teenage children? Janine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, says yes. And now in response to this epidemic, and it is now an epidemic of what are called teenage takeovers, where you have mobs of young people, 15, 16, 17 years old, going into establishments, businesses, pharmacies, restaurants. And I mean, they're fighting with each other, brawling, terrorizing the customers, the patrons, destroying everything in sight, and then moving on business to business, establishment to establishment. She says she's had enough. She's not only going to throw these young people in prison, she's now going to hold the parents responsible for neglect and lack of parenting and supervision, saying, if you're not going to do your job, then we're going to do ours and start putting you in jail for your failure to properly parent and watch over your child. And so she now says the parents are going to be fined. Some will be forced to take mandatory classes. And if they're not careful, some will be charged on contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and they could spend up to 6 months in jail. Agree, disagree. Let's go back to Chris in Tampa Bay. He said that he had an altercation. The police brought him home. His father gave him a good spanking right on the butt. And then when he was a little bit older, at 16, flexing his muscles, he called his mother a blanking B, a bitch, the B word. And Chris, please pick up where you left off. So you called your mother a B, and then what?
My dad heard it, and he called me into the living room, and he was standing up, and he said very nonchalantly, "What did you call your mother?" I says, "What?" And he said, "You heard me. What did you call your mother?" I told him, and because I was 6'1", 185 pounds, could no longer spank me. So what do you think he did? He punched me, Jeff. He punched me hard. I hit the deck, and I was right in front of the bathroom. It was summertime, and the windows were open.
My Mike, what just happened? Chris, are you there? I think Chris just put us on hold by accident. I'm serious. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but it's just, and then he puts us on hold. So, but I guess, let's put it this way. I think he never called his mother a name, an insult, ever again. My dad would have given me an open hand slap. He would not have punched me, but I'm telling you, it would have been an open hand slap to the face. Probably once, maybe even twice or three times. It would have been like bang, bang, bang. And then he would have threatened to kick me out of the house. And I mean, he had a temper. I mean, the whole house could hear him yell and scream. I mean, you know what it is? It's not so much the blow that bothers you. I mean, of course it hurts, an open hand slap to the face, that hurts, for my father, but it's the humiliation. It's that you're 16, 17, and now you're like being spanked because you're such a jerk. And deep down, you know you're wrong. And so you're also shamed in the process. And when you see how angry your parents are, you can see how much you've disappointed them. So it's sort of emotional, it's psychological, it's also physical. But the point is, there were, consequences to your actions. Now, nothing. Honestly, they defend the kids. I mean, I'm going to play you cuts from Janine Pirro. The parents are coming out and saying, so let me ask all of you, if you had a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old child, boy or girl, it doesn't matter, and they start going around beating each other up, I'm talking really just slugging each other, punching, kicking, choking, and then they're destroying a restaurant, and they're throwing chairs, and they're threatening to hurt innocent people, including 2-3-year-old children, babies. And this was your child. would your response be that my little Jenny or my little Jimmy doesn't have enough after-school programs to distract him or her? That there just isn't enough extracurricular. I'm serious. That's what they're saying. There's not enough extracurricular activities for these kids to do. And so she has to come out with a list paid for by taxpayers. By the way, that includes you and me, about, dozens and dozens of things that these kids could be doing. Paid for by the taxpayer. From the local YMCA to, I could just go on. All kinds of clubs. You name it. Okay, the chess club, whatever, every freaking club under the sun. And she's like, do any of this? But the point is, the parents are like, well, they don't have enough to do. That's why they're doing what they're doing. Instead of, hey, come here. You're never going to do this again. Do you understand? Anyway, look, my dad, first of all, I would be spanked. It doesn't matter if I'm 16 or 17 or whatever, spanked. He would have hit me, as I said, a couple times. He would have yelled. He would have screamed. It would have been World War III in the house. He would have personally brought me to the restaurant, made me apologize to the owner, and then made sure that I there and helped clean it up completely, and my dad would pay for the damages. And then he would tell me to get a job to pay him back for the damages. Okay, just very quickly, I want to go to Mark in New Hampshire, but this is Janine Pirro, and you can tell, you can almost see the smoke coming out of her ears. She really is at the end of her rope, saying enough is enough. We're going to start prosecuting. We're going to start jailing. We're going to go after these teenagers. We're going to restore law and order, but we're also now going to start targeting the parents. Listen now to Janine Pirro saying that the parents are complaining. This is what I find incredible. Don't blame my child for beating an old lady to a pulp. Or don't blame my child because he was spotted on a video throwing a chair all the way across a Chipotle and smashing some customer in the head. No. He doesn't have enough to do on his spare time. In other words, blame society. Where are the programs? Where are the extracurricular activities? My son is bored. That's why he's doing this. Roll cut 100. Mike.
They're coming out and they're emboldened for whatever reason. And it's time to let them know that that's not going to serve them well. And the truth is, these kids, these teens, if you want to call them kids, they need to find something productive to do.
Yes.
And parents, that's your job. That's not our job.
Yes. I don't know. Get a job. As I said earlier, I don't know. Maybe do your homework. I'm just saying. I'm not a big fan of video games. But okay, after school, I don't know, or 7, 8 o'clock at night after dinner, instead of going out and, I don't know, smashing up a McDonald's and putting somebody in the hospital, maybe, I don't know, play video games if you have to. Read a book, watch TV, work out, a million things. Whatever. They got iPads, iPhones. Watch the iPhone. Listen to music. I don't know what else to tell you. So, listen now to this. So she goes to the parents. The parents are like, well, no, they have nothing to do. Oh, my God, what are they going to do? So she says, okay, this is what we're paying to give your children all kinds of extracurricular after-school programs. So they have nothing to do? Really? Roll cut 100A. Mike.
And I am sick and tired of people saying to me, oh, the teens have nothing to do. Yes, they do. The Department of Parks and Recreation has over 1,700 individual programs for teens, and parents take advantage of this and have your kids get involved in everything from basketball, baseball, boxing, tennis, ballet, cheerleading, kickball, track and field.
She goes on and on. I'm not kidding. Chess club, Dungeons and Dragons club. I mean, it goes on. It goes on and on and on and on. And, how about just get a job? Instead of trashing the Chipotle, work at the Chipotle. Instead of trashing the McDonald's, work at the McDonald's. Put a little money in your pocket, get some responsibility. No, instead, again, blame society, blame the government. In other words, never blame themselves. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, buddy.
Mark, how are you, my friend?
Warm and enjoying a beautiful sunny day, Jeff. It's great. Hey, a couple quick things. First off, what's going to happen when this mob of kids goes into the wrong store and the shop owner feels threatened and decides to unload with his 9mm? God forbid, but it's going to happen sooner or later, Jeff. The guy's going to defend himself, and you're going to have a half a dozen dead kids because they were stupid. That's my first fear. You want to talk about riots? It would be madness. But the broader picture, though, Jeff, you touched on it. Fatherlessness is a plague, and it's uncomfortable, and people might not want to hear it, Jeff, but there's a common denominator in all these teen takeovers, Jeff, and there is a cultural problem among certain communities, Jeff, where this stuff is either endorsed or thought of as funny, thought of as a rite of passage. Fatherlessness, Jeff, is such a plague in one particular community, Jeff, where, civil rights, pre-civil rights, fatherlessness was like 20%. Now it's over 70. You look at every study that's been done, Jeff, 85% of youths that are in juvenile detention come from fatherless homes. Over 70% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. Girls who grow up close to their fathers are 80% less likely to get pregnant as a teenager. You want to know what the issue is? It's fatherlessness. And it's this society and culture that has turned people away from being fathers. They look at fathers as a joke. They look at fathers as unnecessary. Look at every TV show, every sitcom. Fathers are made to be bumbling morons that can't do anything right. And they wholeheartedly knock fathers. They say, well, single mothers are just as good. Single mothers are smarter. If they're smarter, why are they single? Why did they make the bad choices to get involved with these scumbags? Clearly, it's a problem, Jeff. And fatherlessness is the biggest contributing factor. I mean, they're 4 times more likely to live in poverty in a single parent home. And that leads to everything because they can't survive out in society without having a father in that home. If that was one of my kids that did that, Jeff, the next day he'd be there cleaning that place. He'd be there giving me the names of every single kid that was in there. Otherwise, he'd be sore for about a month. This crap has to end. And the only way we can make a fundamental change is by getting away from this stigma of, it's okay, just have your babies. We'll take care of you. It puts these kids behind the 8 ball more so than they already are. And it's disgusting, and it's endorsed by the left and by politicians and by Hollywood and by the media who say single mothers are heroes. Look, I'm all for, I love the moms to try to raise their kids, okay? But having a father in the home is more valuable than anything.
Mark, what do you think about toxic masculinity, this push now by feminists in high school, in colleges, in universities, across Hollywood, popular culture, that it's tied into this attack on fatherhood, that if you're just a man, if you're manly, that somehow it's toxic, it's dangerous, that we don't want men in families, we don't want men in society, we want men to be neutered, to be feminized. Is that a problem as well?
And that's one of the biggest problems. You know, you see these people out there screaming, oh, you're raising your child to be a man. Yes, I am. I'm raising my child. I'm raising my boys to be strong, to look out for other people who can't look out for themselves, who would step up if needed, you know, who would take responsibility for their actions. I'm not going to raise, you know, these mealy-mouthed little wussy boys that are going to sit back and say, oh, just video it. I can't get involved. If my boys see something wrong, they're going to step up and try and help. And I don't know what it is about people that sit here and say, oh, masculinity is so bad. Yeah, you know what? Masculinity is what built this country. Masculinity is what keeps this country safe. And for these clowns to run around spewing this garbage, all it does is contribute to the downfall of so many of these poor, you know, black and minority kids who are already struggling to get through this world. And by taking fathers out and pulling them out of the homes and saying, we don't need you, it's a bald-faced lie, Jeff. They 100% need their father.
Oh, amen. Mark, dynamite, outstanding call. I think you hit the nail right on the head. And you take the father out of the home, and that's what they did with the Great Society. That was LBJ, the Democrats, and their push on welfare. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470 70470. This is from 781. Jeff, Archie Bunker was the first TV dad portrayed as an idiot dad. You know, that's a very good point, 781. That is true. And remember, they made him like this conservative, Nixon-loving, buffoon, arch patriot, Republican. And of course, he was a racist and a bigot and a homophobe and a sexist. And I mean, they turned the guy into, the second coming of the KKK. I mean, it was a well-written show. It was a very well-acted show. That's where meathead Rob Reiner got his big break and became well-known across the country. But you're right. It was a virulently anti-conservative and anti-male, especially anti-father show. I mean, Archie Bunker was the epitome of evil. So you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. This is from 603. And apparently 603 is coming to Sandy's defense for referring to Chipotle as Chipotle. So this is what 603 wrote. Jeff, just a couple of points. First off, in Sandy's defense, ever since Chipotle came into the American lexicon, there have been 5 or 6 different ways to pronounce it. It took about 2 years for the public to finally settle on the way you pronounce it, which, by the way, is a miracle that you don't butcher it like you do other names. But let that go. You see that dig? What are you, what are you, buddies with Mike or something, 603? Look at that dig. But anyway, personally, I don't think sitting in a jail cell for any period of time will make a dang bit of difference in these teens' lives. We have a lot of litter on the sides of our roads. Lots of potholes that need filling. If I were the judge, I would put these teens in pink jumpsuits and put them to work publicly. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. So give those hands and minds something productive to do. God puts sweat in a man's body to cleanse his soul through hard work. Interesting. So 603 is saying, don't put these teenage punks and thugs, who are involved in these teen takeovers, lock them up for 6 months or a year or whatever. They'll probably just turn them into even worse criminals. He's saying, no, put them to work. Community service, public works, fill potholes. This was hard work, by the way. Put them to work. Let them clean the roads, clean the sidewalks, go out there and beautify the community. Put them to work. And maybe, A, they'll get some skills. And B, maybe they don't want to do it again because they don't want to do 6 months to a year of hard labor and hard work. And maybe it'll straighten them out and teach them hard work and discipline and a good, good work ethic and some self-reliance and personal responsibility. So let me throw this on the table. Is the answer not putting them in jail, but putting them to work? 617-266-6868. Maggie in Amesbury. Thanks for holding, Maggie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi. I agree with most of the callers and Judge Pirro, but one caveat. I would say that don't paint parents with a broad brush. Look at the evidence in each case. And I say that because I had great parents who raised 9 of us. 8 of us were successful, and 1 was troubled from day one. And my dad and mom did everything with my sister. She would sneak out of the house. My dad would drive around the town looking for her. He went to court with her time after time trying to help her. They tried therapy, everything. So I guess I'm just saying that don't think that it's always the parents. In many cases, yes, parents are culpable, and I do believe should be held responsible. I love the idea of putting kids to work, but there are sometimes kids that are so troubled mentally or get in the wrong crowd, and parents do everything for them, and they still can do bad things. So that's all I say with the caveat. I don't disagree with Judge Pirro.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Look, Maggie, just to reinforce what you're saying, we used to call it a bad seed. That's the term that we used to use. And in other words, it's just a bad seed. It's not the mother or the father. And your example, I think, is an excellent one, where they go, look, there were, in your case, 9 kids, but usually be like, there was 4, 5, 6 children. All of them turned out great. 1 didn't. Parents didn't do anything different. It's just they have free will, and they just make consistently bad decisions. It's very sad. It's very tragic. Honestly, for the family, it's usually heartbreaking. It's Kelly, what the previous caller Kelly said about her brother. Look, I know this because this is family back in the old country. My mother's older sister, lovely woman, okay, honestly, pious, church-going. You couldn't get a better mother than her. And her husband were, very good parents. They were. And they had multiple children. All of them turned out great except one, the oldest. And he was always a problem. Like since he was young, always a problem. And the parents tore their hair out, like, what did we do wrong? And my mother would say, you didn't do anything wrong. You disciplined them like you did the other children. You loved them the way you did the other children. You took care of them the way you did the other children. Every step of the way, the guy made every single wrong decision. And he eventually got into drugs. He got into alcohol. He became an alcoholic. He ended up having 1 broken marriage, then a 2nd broken marriage. He had children out of wedlock. I mean, he was like the family black sheep. But I remember when we used to take me back to the old country to, and I'd visit my family. I never liked him. The other kids I loved, his siblings, loved him. They were great. Him, there was something always very dark in his eyes. So I don't know if it was undiagnosed mental health issues. I mean, I don't know. All I can just tell you by his actions and his behavior, he was a bad seed. And I think, Maggie, to be fair to Janine Pirro, in your case, as an example, or in Kelly's case, she wouldn't say, well, look, here's a stable 2-parent home, multiple children. The children are well raised, well brought up. You got 1 troublemaker, and the parents are there supervising, going to court, looking for the child. She's not going to, what she's talking about is, You've got parents that are not home. Where are they? She doesn't know. Nobody knows. Probably doing drugs or off with their boyfriend, rolling in the hay. Or they're dropping them off to meet up with their friends so they can do the teen takeovers. So what she's saying is, look, it's complete neglect. It's complete lack of supervision. It's complete lack of care. And you're almost aiding and enabling your kid. And that's why she's furious, because she says, look, instead of saying, I'm going to give Junior a good whack in the back of the head or a good kick in the pants, and I'm going to straighten him out or do the best I can, or can you help me straighten my son out? They come to her and say, well, Junior doesn't have enough to do. Almost as if it's her fault or government's fault or society's fault. And that's why she's saying, no, you're not parenting. If you come to us for help, we can sign him up into any program. We can help him get a job. We can help him with tutoring. We can, after school programs, before school programs. We can do so much for your child. I need you to come to us. Like, you got to care. So I think what she's talking about is this is complete and utter indifference and neglect. Usually there's no father, period, and the mother is technically in the home, but is really not in the home. Or she's probably doing drugs herself. That's what I think she's really getting at. She's not getting into Maggie and Amesbury, 9 beautiful children, 8 turned out great. One just, was the black sheep, a rotten egg, whatever, a bad seed. That everybody knows that. That's free will, what you choose, I remember a guy called this show once, and it tore him up. He was of Irish descent, Irish American. And he said, Jeff, talking about welfare, and he said, I have 6 children. My wife and I raised them. We raised them to work, to be personally responsible, self-reliant, never take a handout. 5 of them turned out great. So proud of them, every single one of them. But I have this daughter, ever since she was like 12 years old, though she just won't freaking work. I don't know what to tell you. He goes, she just won't. And we punish her, and we shame her, and we push her. And then she got with a boyfriend, and she's sitting on her rear end all day, and she's smoking weed and watching Jerry Springer, and just wants to collect a government check. And we're, killing ourselves. Like, what did we do wrong? And I said, listen, you didn't do anything wrong. Sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins. There are deadly sins. People have free will. And some kids, no matter how well you raise them, it's not you. They just choose to do bad. It's heartbreaking. But look, obviously you got 6, 5 turned out great. It's not you, it's her. And sloth is a deadly sin. So I think a lot of it is just, we have to just accept that some of our children will break our heart and choose wrong. But that's not what Jeanine Pirro is saying. Jeanine Pirro is not saying, hey, Ashton Kuhner goes out and punches somebody in the face, and suddenly now Jeff Kuhner is going to be held responsible. No, if Ashton Kuhner is consistently punching someone in the face and terrorizing students at school and committing crime after crime after crime after crime, and daddy doesn't care and mommy doesn't care and nobody's doing anything, well, no, we're going to start to hold you accountable. So it's almost like a plea for desperation. No, to me, Maggie, and you may disagree with me, how the hell did things get so bad so quick? Again, I don't want to do the whole, when I was growing up, but I mean, to be dragged to the principal's office was a source of shame to the parents. Forget the child. To be arrested was a source of shame. To go on welfare was a source of shame. Now, sometimes you have to. I get it. But, I have an able-bodied son. I have an able-bodied daughter. Doesn't want to work. Goes on welfare. The parents were ashamed. Never mind, we're going to go out and beat the hell out of an 85-year-old woman and terrorize a 2-year-old baby and grab the high chair and start smashing it over the head of the father. I mean, it'd be World War III in the house. And instead, they're like, the government. Where's the government? Well, not enough programs for my Jimmy. And on video, and the girls are taping and laughing and giggling like it's fun. It's entertainment. Look, kick him in the head. Woo! They go, woo! And you got some 40-year-old father on the ground. They just kick him right in the skull. They're like, woo! And the girls are laughing. There's no conscience. There's no right and wrong. I'm sorry, they're not civilized. This is barbaric. There's no morality. There's no sense of empathy. This is a human being. You're smashing their skull in. What is wrong with you? It's almost like a generation of sociopaths. And so what are you going to do? Janine Pirro's like, if I got to start arresting the parents, I'm going to arrest the parents. I'm basically, everyone's throwing up their hands. What do you want to do? What, put the military on the streets? Like, is that, what do we have, tanks in front of Chipotle's? So they're trying to get the parents to wake up and say, look, come on. Your child is out of control. And if you won't rein them in, we will. Maggie, final word to you. What say you?
With you, Jeff, in some cases, parents should be held accountable. And in reference to, I think, a text that you got, the one thing my mom and dad always said about my sister, she did better when she had a purpose. So I do agree. Round the kids up, put them to work, let them know what hard life is. But yes, in some cases, the parents need to be held accountable.
Maggie, thank you very much for that call. And no, I got to tell you, that text has really influenced me. After I like that. Give them a purpose, give them a meaning, and by the way, I would pay them. I know this is, I'm not saying you pay them, I don't know, $50 an hour. And then you're saying, well, Jeff, they're criminals. They just assaulted someone. They're, whatever, a year, 6 months, they got to do mandatory work. I'd like for them to have a little money in their pocket to teach them the dignity of work. Hey, look, you work hard, you make money. Isn't it nice to make money? To properly earn it? To come home after a good, productive day's work and say, you know what? I cleaned up that park. Hey, you know what? I filled that pothole. Hey, I took all of these, discarded used drug needles from all these, heroin addicts. I took that off the streets. Like, I'm doing good. I'm doing something positive in the world, in my community, for my neighborhood. And I'm also, making, and it's hard work, but it's rewarding work. And there's some money in my pocket. So they come out with appreciating the dignity of work, and they actually have a skill. They can go to an employer and say, well, look, I showed up to work every day, 9 to 5 or whatever, 8:30 to 6, whatever it is. And I worked hard and I did my job and I completed all my tasks. And, I'm a responsible worker and I can work with others. I mean, there's so many skills they gain. So what I'm saying is I like that idea a lot. With some, they're so violent, they're so dangerous, you got to put them behind bars. But others, not probation, not make excuses, not, oh, poor Johnny or poor Jimmy and put him back out on the streets. No, put him to work. I'm with you. Rob in Dedham. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Jeff.
Rob, buddy.
Hey, what's happening, brother? This is just Wilding 2.0 back in the 80s. These kids are the parents from the parents of the occupiers. These kids are being raised by the government and encouraged by the school systems to be reckless. Number one. The first thing I do with these kids is this. They're teenagers. They're the parents. So, Mr. and Mrs. Parent, first thing we're going to do is make sure they do not have any more cell phones. Number two, they cannot videotape inside of private buildings. They cannot. What the landlord should do is, because they sub these properties out, to put a sign in, you wear a mask, you trespass here, we will arrest you. The cameras are on you. And the funny thing about this whole thing, Jeff, there's nothing new here. These people are looking for a thrill, and all these young girls. I remember holding a sign in Milton. By the way, Jeff, I got on the ballot in the 8th, so I'm the only conservative running here. In Milton, when I was living in Milton, I held the sign, stop. You're talking about male toxic male, whatever.
Toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity.
Female masculinity, whatever I put on the sign. You should have seen what happened. I thought I had insulted the world. The problem is these women are trying to be men. They want to be equal. Okay, miss, you want to be equal. Your son assaults me. You're going to have your own problems. But Jeff, enough of this nonsense. This is just a test by the lefties because they're losing the election with coming up in September. They know the whole thing's falling apart, and they're always trying something to disrupt and distract from everybody. So I'm looking forward. I want to bring Frank Rizzo back. Remember Frank Rizzo, the mayor of Philadelphia, when the protesters took over a building? He drove above it with a helicopter and dropped a bomb on them. Enough of these people, okay? You have the right to walk the streets, and you have a right to say to these kids, hey, kid, let me tell you something. You're going down the wrong street. And these police, listen, I like the cops, but they're all political now. They're afraid to do their jobs, and we can't have that anymore. So I'm not worried about anything. Take the phones away and use all those phones as evidence, and they can't have phones. And then put the kids that made the mess, let them work inside Tripoli for the next year, cleaning up the tables, and have a sign on them. I ruined this place. That's why I'm working. Yeah, pay them a little bit, but we don't coddle these kids. These are bad news, and this is the result of just bad parenting because all the parents have been destroyed by the Democrats. Bad schooling because the schools are destroyed by the Democrats, and these kids are reckless. They don't have any sense of anything, Jeff.
Oh, you're dead on. Rob, you're dead on. Let me throw this on the table, and Rob, as always, thank you very much for that call. Bad parenting, bad schooling, just bad just overall. By the way, no God. Okay, what do you make of Rob's suggestion, the previous caller, that maybe it's time to take away their phones, their iPhones? Let's say if they're under 16 or even under 18. You now have country after country. Australia led the way, but it's now being followed by dozens of countries where they are banning teenagers from accessing social media. Many countries are saying don't even allow them to have a phone, an iPhone, period. I mean, they can have a flip phone. They need to call somebody for an emergency or their parents. But, the iPhone with the videotaping and the YouTube and the Instagram and the social media, no. And Rob is saying, you take away that iPhone in which these teenage punks can't keep filming each other, wrecking at Chipotle, or beating up an 85-year-old woman, or destroying a CVS, one of these teenage takeovers, and you're going to see this problem collapse like a stone, drop like a stone. That this problem is just going to, by itself, once they can't get fame and notoriety on social media, you're going to see this problem dwindle very quickly, decrease very quickly. Is it time to take away the phone? Is it time to ban the iPhone for, say, those 17 or 16 and younger? What say you? 617-266-6868. Susie in the Peach State, Georgia. Thanks for holding, Susie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
This has become a mutilated mutated flash mob, and now they mixed in MMA. There's no excuse for this, and that's what the problem is. There's no accountability, and everybody blames somebody else. It's somebody else's fault my kid is a monster. I've agreed with every one of your callers, and Janine Shapiro has a good idea, but I feel that instead of putting them in jail, sentence them to have to work off, to repay for all the vandalism, and to compensate these victims who are forced to witness this. This is awful. This is horrible behavior. There's no excuse for this. You had somebody, maybe it was Janine Shapiro, that said there's 1,700 programs out there for these kids to get into, but they're choosing not to. Well, you know what? Their choice is now not their choice. They should be forced to get jobs, not a job actually, to work to repay all of this vandalism. This is vandalism. This is what they've done. Is back in the day they had flash mobs where they'd break out the music and everybody be dancing. It'd be inconvenient, but everybody would get a laugh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's cute. Now they've changed it, and they've mixed in the MMA. Everybody's getting beaten up. Everybody's getting humiliated, hurt, hospitalized, and the vandalism, the destruction from this is inexcusable. And again,
well, Susie, what I'm going to do is this, just to bounce off of what you're saying. I'm going to play the cut again. I'm urging everybody, please see the video, this viral video, because you really get a sense of the horror, the terror that these customers and patrons are experiencing, what you were talking about. Not just the savage violence that you see, which is like, really, what are we, in Ukraine? Like, seriously, what is this, Iran? I mean, it's just the savagery, the way they're just hitting each other and tearing into each other. And, to take a wooden chair, which also has, it's got metal legs, and to smash it over somebody's head at full power. You're crazy, man. You could kill somebody. You could legitimately split their head open and kill them. Like, what is wrong with you? And they're just emotionless. Like, it's just nothing. It's like picking their nose. So I just want to play. This is the sound. Mike, roll cut 11, please. Okay, so the yelling are these little kids that are in the corner who are there with their parents. One of them was, I think, a 2 or 3 year old girl from the high chair, and the father takes the poor child off the high chair. And the kid's like, crying. I mean, the kid's crying, they're yelling, they're screaming. You got to see the video. You see them shaking and terrorized in the corner. And then the other, what you hear, like, those are chairs being thrown all over the place. I mean, the furniture is flying left, right, and center. I mean, honestly, man. Look, again, in the old days, a couple of beat cops would have showed up. They would have pulled out their baton, and I'm telling you, they would have smashed some heads. I mean, they'd never do this again. Believe me. Now, of course, the police, you get a lawsuit, and your career's over. They end up going to jail. The criminals don't, but the cops will go to jail. Susie, do me a favor. Can you please hang on? Because you've touched on something, and I want to come back to you and take more of your calls. Should parents be held accountable? Okay, I'm going to go right back to Susie in Georgia. Susie, I thought you made a really good point about how, these teenage thugs need to be taught you can't just destroy property. You can't just destroy someone's business. You have to show respect for what someone else has worked for and earned. And I want to run this by you. And you're saying they should work. Make them work. Make them work and make them pay it off. Make them pay off everything that they destroy. And I'm with you all the way, Susie. But I want to ask you this, because actually, and I want to give a hat tip to Sandy, because Sandy made this point to me off air. If you look at our education system, okay, whether it's high school, college, university, obviously, but you look at Hollywood, you look at popular culture, you look at social media influencers, liberal, leftist social media influencers, you look at AOC, you look at Bernie Sanders, you look at Kamala Harris, you look at Mamdani. In other words, you look at the Democratic Party as it is now, okay? A Marxist, socialist, radical party. There's no question. What are they all really pushing? It's communism. And what does communism stand for? The destruction of the family, which is what we're seeing happen in front of our eyes, which is leading now to this social crisis of these teenage takeovers and all the violence and the chaos and the bedlam. But what also communism pushes is what? The destruction, eradication of religion, of faith. We've taken faith now out of the home, out of the school, out of the public square, and the destruction of private property. To your point, have you noticed there's a sea change now in opinion, especially on the left, but including young people, where vandalizing something is no big deal. Destroying a CVS or a Walgreens is no big deal. In fact, you have all of these district attorneys, progressive liberals, who will not prosecute if you steal up to $1,000. Who will not prosecute if you will vandalize or destroy a Chipotle or a McDonald's or a grocery store. It's like, well, it's just property. It's no big deal. Who cares? As if property is nothing. As if property has no value or no meaning. I don't believe that's an accident or a byproduct. I think that's the intent. And I'm just going to say one last thing, and then I want to go to you, Susie, and get your reaction. A lot of people are saying, well, we're electing soft on crime district attorneys. That's true. But I don't know if soft on crime is the right description. And it's not, I'm not trying to haggle or, argue over nuances. No, I don't think they're soft on crime. I think they want crime. And part of that crime is to destroy private property, which is the essence of communism. When you say, no, we're not going to prosecute anybody who steals up to $1,000. Well, you're basically saying you're decriminalizing theft. No. If you want to smash up a restaurant, or let's just say a Chipotle, we're not going to prosecute because we don't care. You can wreck it. We don't care. The insurance will take care of it. So we don't care. What you're really saying is destroying private property is okay. It's fine. And I think that's deliberate. I don't think it's just quote unquote soft on crime. I think what they want is they want a culture like you see in South Africa. By the way, like you see in every communist country, especially before they take power. You attack business owners, you attack businesses, you show the least amount of respect for property, private property, business property, because ultimately it's all theft. According to Marxist theory, it's all theft. Capitalism is theft. Business is theft. Having a private business, that's a form of thievery. And so I'm sure if you spoke to any of these teenagers, well, don't you feel bad? A person owns a business, works hard, employs people, has got to keep this thing open 7 days a week, around the clock, put blood, sweat, and tears, probably years and years of savings and investment and work, and you're going to come in there and just destroy it and trash it to the point if this keeps happening, he's going to have to close down his business because that's what happens in these high crime areas. What would they say? We don't care. So what? He's rich. We don't care. So what I'm asking you, Susie, is this. Are we now starting to see the manifestation, the signs of living in a communist country or a communist society? Religion is attacked and denigrated. The family is being systematically dismantled and destroyed. And private property increasingly is under assault. Am I wrong?
Right. I agree with you. Create chaos, create anarchy, bring in communism. Here's the problem. Now we have a solution. We created the problem, but now we have a solution. We're going to bring in the communism, the socialism. I agree 100%. It's disgusting. It's repulsive. And you know what? Communism is not compatible with our Constitution. Again, let's start at the foundation. Religion first, foremost. Family first, foremost. And start holding them accountable, responsible for their bad behavior. It's simple. It's that simple. These kids, I'm sick of the excuses. Everybody's sick of the excuses. And again, these crimes shouldn't be expunged once they turn 18. They know full well what they're doing. They're creating chaos. They're creating anarchy. They're creating terror. They're vandalizing. They're hurting. They're injuring people. And then you were talking about the babies that were crying. So they're creating psychological damage to these children. They're terrifying these children that they've never been exposed to this, and now they go out for a simple dinner or a lunch or they're going shopping, and now they're being exposed to this violence. Inexcusable. And I'm fed up with all the excuses.
Oh, amen.
Time to hold them accountable.
Oh, you are so on point. Susie, dynamite call. Thank you very much for that call. Roman in Boston. Thanks for holding, Roman, and welcome.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Roman?
Okay, Jeff, I just wrapped up last month a 30-year career in law enforcement. I'm retired now. From the mid-'90s until the mid-2020s, I've basically seen it all. I've seen the change. I've seen how kids have changed, okay? And, you know, every kid, there's no, for kids, and I use that term as, God, a 40-year-old is a kid to me. But when you get kids that are told everything is okay, and what they see, the riots, Kamala Harris coming out and saying, Gavin Newsom, let them shoplift. The insurance companies will handle it. Look, inevitably, who ends up paying for it is us, the ones who pay the premiums. And it reflects on that. But, you know, these kids need an audience constantly. They constantly need an audience. And with the advent of social media, it's like a big show. I mean, even did you ever notice a group of kids walking down the street and they're so loud and obnoxious? And that's the way they talk. That's their normal talking octave. It's ridiculous. I've been in the middle of 30 kid fights. You know what I mean? In a parking lot after school, big giant fight. And in the old days, those kids would have been dealt with, right? And it wouldn't have happened again. Now, like you had mentioned earlier, police are handcuffs. The state handcuffs the city. It doesn't happen here because we're just so blue that everything goes and it's fine and society's children and all that. So they're just kids, and it's not my kid. And when Michael Brown went after that cop, you know, they posted his 5th grade picture when he was 6'5", 300 pounds in reality. And society should be charged with aid to the delinquency of minors. The toxic masculinity is it only applies to white males. That's it. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're dead
Everything
on.
else is much
No,
everything
Roman,
else
you're
is
dead
much-
on. Roman, listen, I'm up against the break. I want to come back to you. I want to take many more calls. I want to ask you this because you've been 30 years law enforcement. You said the kids are different today. They've changed. Teenagers in particular. And I want to ask you this. What specifically has changed? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Roman in Boston. Roman, 30 years of law enforcement experience. You said you've broken up a lot of fights at schools. Maybe 25, 30, 35 of them over the years. In the past, it would be dealt with. The school cared, the principal cared, the parents cared. Now, you're saying nothing happens, no one is held accountable, no one is punished. So I've got to ask you, what is the difference now among teenagers today that get in trouble compared to, say, criminal teenagers of 20 years ago? What is the one thing that really stands out to you as a law enforcement person?
Jeff, the one thing that stands out to me the most, and it's been talked about all morning, so I'm preaching to the choir, is if I picked up a kid and, he may have had a fresh mouth, but they never stepped up to you, but they'd mutter something. You'd take them home, their parents would handle it, right? And it was mortifying to have the police show up at people's houses and disrespecting cops, teachers, any adult. The big thing that sticks out to me is I just don't understand how the parents look at an 18-year-old thug and still see the 4-year-old boy that they coddled, and it's never my son. Do you know how many times I've run into that in the past 15 years? And this is relatively new, because 15 years ago, it was still the same as the mid-90s, 80s. It was still the same. Kids were good. Kids were fine. There's many factors as to what happened. It's a product of what they see. So if the kid is acting like the parents, then you know what's going on in that house. But in a lot of other cases, the state will not allow parental discipline. I've had numerous calls of kids calling the police that I've showed up. One quick story, just one quick one, Jeff. I get a call, right? Maybe 10 years ago. I got a call. Girl called called us for her father pushing her. Well, the father said one day that they were going to go get her a cell phone. Fine. The credit card got declined. It couldn't get her a cell phone. She gets home, starts throwing a hissy fit, pins her mother up against the wall, cocks her fist back like she's going to punch her. The father grabs her by the hair and throws her back. She called the police. The father is ready to go to jail. Put his hands behind his back. I'm like, I'm not arresting you. This is parental discipline. You deserve that, right? If I did that today, I'd lose my job. I would have had to arrest that per my supervisor, whether I wanted to or not. So there's a million reasons, but parents need.
Interesting, Roman. This is a real eye-opening call. So basically, parents now, unlike in the past, you bring home their child, they've just committed a crime. Not my Jimmy, not my Jenna. No, I believe them, I don't believe you. So they're coddling the child. There's no punishment, there's no consequences, there's no responsibility, there's no nothing. So they take the side of the child when they should be, helping to punish the child. You're right. Now you just, you whack a child in the bum or in the, whatever, anything, you touch them. And that's abuse. That's domestic abuse, and they can call the police on you. So what are you going to do? You try to discipline your child, and you're the bad guy. Or the bad girl, the bad mom, the bad mother. That, again, the state is getting involved in parental authority and the family, and it's making it infinitely worse. It's undermining the authority of the parents, which is now creating this crisis among us that we have people. Look, you have to look at the video, and other videos like it. You're talking about a human being lying on the ground, a 35, 40, 45-year-old woman or man, a father or a mother, with a child crying, and they kick that person in the head. Right in the head. Woo! Like it's fun, like it's funny. And the teenage thugs are laughing. Ha, 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 do it again. Hey, Jimmy, do it again. And you got women, teenage girls filming this laughing as well. They're chuckling. So kicking somebody in the head is funny. It's a joke. That's morality, my friends. That's there's no right and wrong. There's no conscience. There's no sense that's a human being on the ground that you're kicking in the head. You could give that person permanent brain damage. That could be a concussion. You could kill him or her. You could kill the woman. No sense whatsoever that is another human being in the image and likeness of God. No sense of bad, good, right, wrong. None of it. None of it. Now, if they can do that, are you shocked in 5 or 10 years that they pull out a gun and just shoot somebody for no reason? Or start dealing drugs and start killing I don't know how many people because they're lacing it with fentanyl? I'm just saying, I mean, you want to understand what's happening around you. It's pretty obvious. It starts at home. Roman, thank you very, very much for that call. Okay, very quickly, I want to go to Heather in Wareham. Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Should age restrictions be put on cell phone use? Basically, should teenagers be banned from having cell phones? Or iPhones, to be more specific. Okay, I don't think we're talking about the flip phone here, but, an iPhone, where they are on social media all the time. They're recording everything, like these teenage takeovers. So should age restrictions, whatever, 16 and under, 15 and under, 17 and under, countries are doing it around the world, and there's a push now to do it here in the United States. So should age restrictions be put on cell phone use? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in national ER. You can also vote via X. And yes, I was active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Heather in Wareham. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Some really good calls today. I just want to answer your question real quick. I say yes to your poll question, but I wanted to. I think the guy's name was Mark, and then he was right before Maggie, the caller, and he made some really, really good points on. About the father and not having the father in the home. He just made some. They all the callers made some good points. But I just want to say another thing. I think a couple of things. I think this all boils down to the lack of family values. Like that. I mean. Back, my parents were divorced, but let me tell you, if I got in trouble at school, like I would be punished, and I didn't really get in trouble. But if something happened at school, like my mother and father would punish me. Like it wasn't like, oh, Heather's just such a good girl and wouldn't do anything bad. No, we would get in trouble, and I think it's all on how you raise your kids. And the other thing I want to say too is this how society has changed, and I've always had an opinion about this, but like how it's okay. It seems like it's okay today for people to just like have kids and not get married. Like, oh well, it doesn't matter. I'll just have a kid, and we don't have to get married. We can just raise a kid. And then you get these boyfriends moving in, mothers that have boyfriends moving in and out of the house, and there's no stability whatsoever. I think that adds to it. But it's definitely comes down to parenting. But I do have to say this. I don't think there's an easy solution. Like, I don't know if the parents should automatically be. My initial reaction would be yes, they should be. It should be reprimanded, for the child's behavior. However, I think there's so many other things that go into this, like mental illness, not just could be the parents, but not on the child. And there was a couple callers that said, like, you could have awesome parents, but a bad seed. So that's not necessarily the parenting. So there's no easy answer.
I agree.
For that.
No, I agree. Heather, I agree. It's not cut and dried. You're completely right. No, look, Heather, just to piggyback off of your point, to me, look, it's always a tragedy when there's a divorce, but sometimes it's necessary. Okay, we had Grace's older sister, my sister-in-law. I love her to death, Anne Marie. I begged her for years to leave her husband, because he was abusive, not physically, but emotionally, psychologically. And I said, look, please, this is not a suicide pact, for you, for the good of the child, frankly. It just wasn't good for Maria, my niece. So anyway, eventually they did separate and divorce, and everybody's much better. He's happier. She's much happier. Maria's happier. So look, sometimes you have to have a divorce. I'm sorry. It's sad. Obviously, when you get married, you're not wanting to get divorced. The aim is to be together forever. But sometimes it happens. I get it. When I talk to teachers in particular, principals and teachers, let me tell you, I asked them this. I said, what's changed? I go, many of them have been around 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I go, what's changed that you've really noticed in the last 30, 40 years? To a man and woman. I don't care if it's elementary school, middle school, high school. I don't care if it's a principal, if it's a teacher's aide, if it's a teacher. It doesn't matter. The vice principal, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. They all tell me the biggest change, Jeff, parents just don't care. And they go, again, it's what Rowan said. It's been about 10, 15 years. They said until about 15 years ago, like roughly 2010, 2011, 2012, around there. They go, no, it was like it was in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, what we had when we first started out, or my mentors who taught me or taught us, and so it was similar. If the child wasn't doing well in school, the parents got involved right away. They were not happy. They weren't happy if their grades were slipping. They weren't happy if they were misbehaving. Never mind if they were getting violent or, God forbid, drinking or doing drugs. They go, the parents cared. Now, some parents were better. Some parents were, a little worse. But the parents cared. They were parenting. They were engaged. They go, the last 15 years, they go, it's the weirdest thing. They just don't care. And I go, what do you mean they don't care? Like, how could they not care? It's their child. We call them. Nobody calls back. They're too busy working. Both of them are working. One's got a boyfriend. The other one's got a girlfriend. The child's going from one home to another. The parents just say, yeah, but they don't do anything. They throw their kid in front of a television. They throw their kid in front of a computer. The screen is now raising their child. They don't want to be bothered with school. And everything is no big deal. It doesn't matter what they do. It's no big deal. They bring a gun to school. It's no big deal. They kick somebody in the head. It's no big deal. Like, they do drugs. It's no big deal. Or the school is to blame. Like, somehow their children are always blameless. To the point they say, in the past, we used to call and, the parents would be like, thank you for telling me. I'm going to take care of this. Now, to the teachers listening, am I wrong? I've heard this hundreds of times. They go, now, they're like, what are you bothering me for? no, Timmy, he wouldn't do that. Don't you blame Timmy. They're like, it's hostile. They're arguing with us. Like, we're the problem. So they're saying the kids aren't being parented. That's the biggest problem. That's Janine Pirro's point. But it's almost like there's no sense of right or wrong. There's no sense of morality. There's no sense of shame. There's no sense of, by the way, and the parents are saying, like, look, if your child is doing drugs, don't you care the child may become a drug addict or is a drug addict? Or is doing alcohol and abusing alcohol and is an alcoholic? Or if they're failing at school, like, aren't you worried that the child, I don't know, won't be able to go to, college, university, or a trade school, or like, this is hurting your child's future. Like, don't you care? And either they don't care because they're doing whatever they're doing, or they blame the school. It's always the school's fault. It's never their child's fault. They've become so child-centric. It's everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets a trophy. And if you tell them, no, I'm sorry, your child's failing, they're offended. Like, no, give my child the trophy. But your child can't play. Give him the bloody trophy. So this mentality now, and it's been about 10, 15 years, and the teachers say, look, we don't want to teach. I mean, we teach, but it's demoralizing. The principals, I can't tell you how many times I hear this. I'm happy I'm about to retire. Because if I had to start all over again, I wouldn't want to be a principal. Because the students disrespect us openly in a way they never would have even 15, 20 years ago. The parents disrespect us. And we just feel whatever we do, we're criticized. So he goes, you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. So what they're describing is a social crisis. It's a crisis of parenting. It's a crisis of society, how we're raising our children. And I don't know, it's like these children are so entitled that they're never told whatever they do is wrong. And that there are consequences and they're going to be held responsible and accountable. It's like they go through life, nothing will ever happen to them, nothing should happen to them. And any little inconvenience, it's your fault. And my honest opinion, I'm going to come right back to you on this, Heather. People are saying couples now, like the whatever, Gen Z, whatever it's called, those in their 20s. They say, well, they can't live together. They can't stay married. They can't stay in a relationship. I can't tell you how many times I hear now from managers and owners and saying they don't assimilate into the workforce. Like you tell them, look, what you just did now is wrong, and they start crying. And you're like, what's wrong with you? Like they can't be, I'm not wrong. How could you tell me I'm wrong? It's okay. You didn't murder somebody. I'm just telling you, please don't do this. You have to do it like this. They start crying. I don't want to name names. I'm telling you, I have seen people in their late 20s, early 30s. These are fully grown adults that walk around at work in their pajamas in the middle of the day. And that's in many companies. Okay? So I want you to think, oh, Kuhner man's bashing iHeart. Far from it. With a comfy blanket, as they call it. Because they need a blanket to be comforted if they're ever told by their boss or supervisor, well, I don't think you should have done it this way. Or, you know what, I think didn't you miss this? I think you needed to do this. And they're so brittle. It's like a they run to human resources. It's a microaggression. So you're raising children that can't function. They can't hold down a job. They can't hold down a relationship. They can't ever be told that they're wrong or they've done something wrong. You're not doing your kids any favors. You're literally crippling and destroying your child. And I'm telling you, you got teachers and principals, and the police will say the same thing. I'm just happy I'm about to retire. Because that's the world that we now live in. Heather, final word to you.
So two things. What you said about the divorce, I totally agree. But what I mean is, you have these couples like, oh well, we can just have kids and it doesn't matter. We don't need to get married. What I'm saying is, I don't believe you should bring kids into a situation. Like, you should start with a stable. This is me. I don't have children, but this is my opinion. I've always thought this. It doesn't make sense. You bring children into a stable foundation. If something happens, that's different, but at least you brought them into a stable foundation. By having kids and just not being married is just, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Like, that just never did. But the other thing is, like, real quick story is, my sister, this was a couple months ago, my middle nephew's about to graduate, and he's like the sweetest kid ever. Like, I'm not just saying that because he's my nephew, really is like the kindest, most sweetest kid. But she got a call from the school, from the principal, and she had to go down to the principal. And I'm like, well, why would they be calling you? Like, what do you have to go down there for? They're probably going to tell you how great Eric is and how good of a student he is. And she's like, no, Heather, that's not why. And he did something bad. And of course, she grounded him and punished him and reprimanded him when he got home, as she should have. But it was just.
Oh, I agree with you. And I bet it was a shock to the principal. I guarantee it. It was like, oh, you're mad? Really? Oh, wow. Well, Eric's actually going to get punished? Sandy made an excellent point to me when we were off air. There was a story that she read. She can't remember. It was like the Boston Globe or, I don't know, USA Today or one of these. It was a liberal publication. Okay, liberal publication. And the reason why it's important to note that is generally liberals have been coddling snowflakes now for, 10, 15 years. It's the liberal movement that has created all these snowflakes in school and now in the workplace. Well, even now they're starting to admit it's gotten way, way too out of hand. Things have really gotten out of hand. And so they told a story, which, by the way, is increasingly common, whereby a worker, a woman, a female worker at a corporation or at a business was just told by her supervisor, gently, professionally, hey, you made some spelling mistakes. You can't send over with spelling mistakes. And she got, the little snowflake, so brittle, she got so offended that she started to cry. And then she called her mother and was crying on the phone to her mother. How dare the manager say that what I did had spelling mistakes and it's not acceptable and that I have to fix my mistakes before I send it over. And then the mother, true story, the mother ended up calling the manager and she was reaming him out, yelling at him, how dare you talk to my Courtney like this? Courtney is crying. Courtney's feelings are hurt. How dare you talk to her like this? You don't have the right to talk like this. I want to talk to your boss. I want to talk to HR. Now, I want to ask all of you, if you made a mistake at work and your supervisor said, whatever, hey, Bobby, or hey, Debbie, no, you can't. It's full of spelling mistakes or whatever. You can't do that. Can you just resend it? Would you, A, start to cry? And by the way, this is a 30-year-old woman we're talking about. 30 years old. Okay? Late 20s, early 30s. Would you, A, cry? And then, B, call your mother? And cry to her on the phone? And then have your mother call the boss? And say, don't you ever tell my daughter or me or whatever, my son or my daughter, hey, Debbie, Bobby, they never make mistakes, okay? Can you just, I'm just asking you to imagine that. That's what we're starting to create. Now, that's not, back in my day, we used to work and, this is not some middle-aged fogey, back when I worked, boy, we really worked, unlike this generation. No. They're not functional. They can't function in society. This is what the problem is in the workplace. Owners are expressing it. Employees are expressing it. Managers are expressing it. Supervisors are expressing it. They're like, you don't understand. I can't have employees bawling their eyes out when I just ask them to do a major, a minor change or correct them on something, and so we don't make mistakes. And then it becomes a full-blown drama. And so what happens is they end up firing these people. After a while, they're like, we can't assimilate them. They can't work. They can't function. Bye. They're gone. So what I'm saying is, long story short, you think by coddling your child, you're helping your child. I'm telling you, you're crippling your child. Ed in Stoneham. Thanks for holding, Ed, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Ed?
Good. You saved the last call, I think, for the best.
Oh,
that's me.
Okay. Well, I mean, we still have another 35 minutes in the show, but that's okay, Ed.
All right. Well, I've been on the phone for a long time. But anyway, hey, listen, I got a little bit to say. I've been listening all morning to this, and I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome, Ed.
So, I'm retired. I did 36 years in the police department. My last 25 as a school resource officer. I know a lot about youth. I've done a lot of things with the youth. And today is just such a different world. If we had, let's say, drunk driving stuff, for example, we would school these kids. We would take them and show them videos. We would show, we would do mock crashes to get them to understand. I don't think people listen to students anymore. They don't listen. We would have them come into school if they did something over the weekend, and we would sit with the principal and sit with the assistant principal and go, hey, look, we're trying to build character here. What are you doing out on the weekend wrecking a Chipotle? We don't do that anymore. It seems to be all gone. The parents, I'm fortunate. I have 4 kids, all older, all grown up, all doing well. And just to see the difference in how they react. Like, if there's a school shooting, we would have an assembly for these kids and go, hey, look at this is what happens in a school shooting. If somebody is hurt, this is what it looks like. We don't do that anymore. We've lost that. Instead of having programs like that now, we have programs with and I don't mean to be mean, but they'll have programs where they go, okay, we're going to teach you how to be LGBTQ, or we're going to teach you how to DEI is important. Where's the school teachers today calling your station? Not one did I hear say I'm a school teacher. I think the schools have to be involved. They have to get back to building good character for kids. As far as parents go, it's pretty simple. They've changed. Quick example, I stopped a car one night just before I retired, and it was a young kid, and he had a case of beer in the back seat. So I tried to do the right thing.
Ed, we're up against it. Can you please hang on? I want you to finish your story. Basically, he's saying we need teachers to be more involved, principals to be more involved. Okay, let's go right back to Ed in Stoneham. He is now a retired police officer, many years of law enforcement experience. He says, the times have changed, and frankly, not for the better on every level. And so he's describing about parenting and how parenting has changed, and he wants to share a story. So you pulled over, I guess, a teenager or a young man driving, and you noticed that there was a case of beer in the back seat. Please, Ed, pick up where you left off.
I try to do the right thing. I want to explain to this young man about drunk driving, about possession of alcohol, about how you're going to lose your license for having alcohol and you're under 21. I go through this whole thing with him. He's pretty appreciative, which is great to see when somebody that age acts correctly. So I take the case of beer, I bring it down to my police station, I process it for property. It's just going to sit there and be destroyed someday. It's a case of Bush beer. I don't know who the hell drinks Bush beer, but So about a half hour, 45 minutes later, I get a call, come to the station, somebody wants to talk to you. I get there. There's a man out front, says, this guy wants to talk to you. I said, yeah. He goes, real attitude right from the beginning, this man. He says to me, hey, you pulled my kid over tonight? And I was like, well, I don't know who your kid is. Like, yeah, you pulled my kid over tonight and you took a case of beer out of the car. And I was like, yes, I did. He goes, well, that's my beer and I want it. And I said, well, you understand that your son can't have a case of beer in the car, your car, driving it around, doesn't matter. He can't have it. He can't be in possession of alcohol, whether he's drinking it or not. He goes, look, you're not going to drink that beer after work. And I was like, what? I go, you don't think I have money to buy a case of beer? I go, I don't drink beer that I took. It's in property. So he goes, well, it's my case. I want it. So I said, okay. I went down. I brought the case of beer up. I showed him that I had a property tag on it. I ripped the property tag off. I wrote out an evidence tag. I said, now you go home and explain to your son why he just got charged with possession of alcohol and he's going to lose his license. You go explain it to him. And now he's like, oh, wait a second. I go, no. You wanted to come in here and not be a parent. I tried to do the right thing and school your son or your daughter, whatever it may be at the time, you know. But that's the parenting thing now. There's nothing there. Like the kid went home and said, oh, I got stopped. I had a case of beer. Maybe he was being honest with his father. And the father has a nutty.
Incredible. So, this is incredible. Ed, sorry, how did it end? Please don't tell me the father took the case of beer home and got to end up charging the son.
No, I just put it in for a hearing and got rid of it when it got to the point where I could get rid of it. But that's not the point.
No, I get it. No, the point is...
It's the father going home and saying, what, he took your beer? How dare he? Like, that's what they're teaching their kids, like, to fight everything.
It's incredible.
As far as Janine Shapiro goes, I love her. But if you think that you're going to see a parent go to jail for any of this stuff, that's like watching Fauci go to jail. It's just not going to happen.
So you think she's blustering a little bit, right?
Yeah. So what she should do maybe is do these programs. They work. I know it sounds strange, but if you get kids and they want to learn about different things, like, hey, show them if you're having a problem with overdoses, get something out there to show these kids what it's like to go to somebody who OD'd. I mean, there's stimulus for them. They need it. They need to see it. They're seeing half the stuff on their phone now. You can't stop cell phones. When we tried to do it at the school once, the parents, 92% voted no, you're not stopping my kid from taking a cell phone to school. I need it for sports. I need it if he's sick, and I need it if there's a school shooting. I want to be able to reach my son or daughter. I mean, the cell phone thing, that's a done deal. Remember the days of putting a computer in your house and your parents said it stays in the living room. Nobody gets to have one in the bedroom. Nobody gets to be on it alone. And then we gave them a little computer to walk around in life with that they can get worse things that they ever could have gotten in their living room. I mean, it's just crazy now. It's just it got to the point.
No, it's gotten to the point now where really, we've lost complete control over our children. And to me, that story is an incredible story. Instead of saying, hey, son, what the hell were you doing with a case of beer in the back of the car? You know, you're underage, dude. You know, and you should thank the police officer because you could have lost your license. No, he shows up and says, give me the beer. I'm telling you, in a nutshell, this is exactly what's wrong. This is why police officers are saying, no, thanks, but no thanks, I'm ready to retire. And why you have teachers and others saying, this is what we deal with every day. Your kid is transgressing, and I'm the problem. Ed, great job, great call. Don't be a stranger. Call again. Kim in Brighton, thanks for holding, Kim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Kim.
I believe that everything that's currently going on is absolutely intentional. We're in steep decline. We've been promoting this ghetto culture for decades, And I think the government programs that are around are causing the problem. We have two tiers of society, some people worrying about whether they put their recycling bins out early and they're going to get a violation, and another group who destroys a Chipotle or something else and there are zero consequences. And I believe that welfare totally created this, and I have to be kind of cold with the accounting aspect, but you're basically paying women who are not married and can't support children to have more money by having more kids. And that's the truth. So we are in a serious spot here, but I believe it's intentional and it's supposed to happen. I've referenced El Salvador before, the former murder capital of the world that's now become one of the safest countries, and for whatever reason that was slated for reconstruction and progression. And we are slated for deconstruction, and it seems pretty obvious. So I think it's hard to say what to do, but if you have a welfare system that pays women to have more kids, that's totally wrong. And as for what's going on in this kind of destruction, something needs to happen drastically. I don't think an after-school program is going to help. There has to be some kind of really strong presence. These kids don't have any fathers. Something that has to make them scared. The El Salvador prisons, they're not pleasant at all. They have to work very hard. And as a society, we've just basically given up. And I think until people decide to change, nothing will change. How is it that we don't have any choice over this kind of violence? What happens, it makes people fearful. They don't want to go out, and maybe that's the goal, and let the criminals take over, because the Democrats think the criminals are the good guys, and they don't think it's a problem. And yet we have no say over, say, like bike lanes, and they destroy blocks of streets and put businesses out of business by taking away all the parking, and somehow we don't have a say over that, and we don't have a say over what's happening with our society in decline. We have to do something, and I hate to be part of a talk radio where we keep talking and not doing, but that's what I think the problem is, and we celebrate the ghetto culture. In my opinion, the resident Dementia Joe, look at his son. They were like ghetto people.
Oh, Kim, you're click. I mean, honestly, you're clicking on all cylinders. And look, politics is always downstream from culture. You capture the culture, you capture the politics. And that's what you're nailing it. That's the problem. You break up the family, you promote this ghetto culture, you show disrespect for the law, disrespect for authority, disrespect for God, let's be honest, disrespect for faith in the church, family, the basic institutions of society. This is what you end up creating. And these are monsters. And that's the problem now that we face. What we saw at Chipotle, and that's just a microcosm of a much bigger problem, were a bunch of uncivilized savages. That's what it is. And the question is, are we going to defend civilization? Are civilized people, citizens of this great country, law-abiding taxpayers? Are we going to say, no, you are not going to allow savages to roam wild and murder and plunder and threaten and terrorize? Or are we just going to let them have their way and take over the streets? And you're right. The Democrats want us afraid and cowering. They want us to be afraid to stay indoors because they've now become pro-criminal. And we have to say, no, these are our streets. There are sidewalks, there are restaurants, there are establishments, there are businesses. We have the right to go there. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quickly, because I want to go back to the phone lines. This is from 781. Please, you got to listen to this, because this is a very, very important text. It is from a former law enforcement official. Jeff, I can tell you that there does exist a subculture of criminal behavior. Your audience probably can't imagine a mother of a convicted criminal bringing illegal drugs in her bra during a visit to her son in prison. Jeff, the crime statistics are always pointing toward the truth, but criminologists and sociologists always explain it away, pointing to lack of economic opportunity, poor quality housing, etc., etc. Well, that might have been true, say, in the past, like the 1970s, but not anymore. From President Clinton on, with the midnight basketball programs in the 1990s to the free phones and other goodies under Obama, we, the federal taxpayers, have funded brand new parks, playgrounds, gorgeous new housing developments, bus rides to and from school, before school and after school care, SNAP cards, EBT cards, free tuition and scholarships, on and on. The benefits are there. But still, the criminal street code way of life persists. So what is the common denominator? No father figures in the home and horrible parenting by the mom. This is a national plague, and it is definitely going to be one of the most violent summers we've ever had, because the left has the liberals as judges, district attorneys, and mayors. They won't punish the criminals because they feel it's racist. Bingo. Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Brian in Whitman. Thanks for holding, Brian, and welcome.
Okay, so I have 2 points. One is socialism and Sharia law is diametrically opposed to democracy. You can't do it. Only way the communism works is in a vacuum, because human beings can't be in a vacuum, can't live in a vacuum. But someone once asked me, give me an example recently. So I said Venezuela, but before Chavez took over, it was a powerhouse in economics. When Chavez took over, 5 to 10 years later, it was poverty-stricken. Okay, communism and Sharia law causes less freedom and more poverty. But on the children's side of it, okay, trophies for breathing. That happened 20 years ago when my son was in school. Okay, they were giving away trophies, and then they started giving away trophies for breathing, right? And so my son comes running into the room, right? And this is what he says to me: Dad. I said, what? It's not fair. Okay, he thought I was going to coddle him. I said, listen, you've learned a life lesson. Life is not fair. Okay, you're ahead of your friends and your schoolmates. And if life was fair, people's farts would smell like bubble gum, but they don't. Okay, and then I got the dad eye roll that I know that your children have given you.
No, Brian, look, you're right. And what you're seeing now is really 60 years of great society, liberalism, of socialism, and this is now what it's done. It has wrecked families. It has wrecked neighborhoods. It has led to a crime epidemic, anarchy, chaos, and now we're reaping the whirlwind. I think now there's no question. And we have to now ask ourselves, do we want to continue down this disastrous path, or do we want to change? And I believe it's time for a change. Brian, thank you so much for that call. All right, Norman in Pennsylvania. Norman, I've only got 1 minute left until the show ends. The floor is yours. Go.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on Janine and what I've been sending to Trump. And I really advocate the use of universal draft for everybody. Men and women, they should be required to put in so much time in community service. Military service is voluntary. And with that, there's all kinds of programs that was brought up in the your audience brought up a number of things that can be applied to this. And I really think that.
Well, Norman, look, I think there's no question that if we were drafting children, teenagers, not into the military per se, but to do community service,